Thanks for joining. If you're watching this later, thanks for watching this. I'm just gonna go over like the purpose of this group really quick. It's this is not therapy. It's a group for people coping with a variety of problems. Information discussed and shared in this group is intended to support the therapeutic process and increase readiness for change. If you're feeling suicidal or having life threatening thoughts, this group is not the place to discuss. Please consider calling 988, getting in touch with your therapist as soon as possible, or reaching out to a loved one um, to help access additional resources. We are recording this and it will be available on YouTube, our YouTube channel, for you to rewatch. Due to this, if you're not comfortable turning on your camera, that's fine. If you would like to change your name, feel free to do that as well. Um, and feel free to jump in and join at any time if you are live with us. My name's Caisie. Um, and I obviously work at Cash Valley Counseling. Tonight we're going to be talking about, or I'm going to be talking about and discussing how you can help um, your kids, if you have children or work with children, with anxiety and worry. If you don't have children, that's fine. I find these like tools and stuff we're going to talk about today actually really helpful, even for myself. So it's not necessarily just for children, but it's in maybe a more um, friendly way to present like age appropriate language and stuff like that. But I think these tools are really awesome, and this is something that I don't do a lot with. I don't work a lot with children in the clinic, but I have children, and so this has been on my mind lately. That's coming up, so I was excited about it, and I thought I could share it with you guys tonight. So what can we do? And I'm just for the purpose of this, I'm going to be framing it as with our kids, with children. But please know again that this is stuff you can apply to yourself. So don't check out or leave us just because I'm framing it that way. I really think anyone could benefit from this stuff, but just want to preface that a little bit. So, um, our role, I wanted to kind of like focus on that. Like, what is my role as a parent, helping kids with anxiety or worry? Um, when do I know it's like maybe crossed into more anxiety than just normal worry? Um, when is it something to address? Like, how do I bring it up? Um, these are all tricky, maybe not tricky, but might feel tricky if it's new to us and navigating that. So I kind of was like thinking of four different areas of concentration, and the ones I'm just thinking about are first, as an adult or as a parent or childcare provider, addressing our own anxiety is going to be the biggest thing first. Doesn't mean we can't be anxious. Can't We all have anxiety, we all have worry, but being aware of that and how it affects us is number one important, because our energy is going to transfer over and it's going to blur what's really going on. And so that's the first kind of thing. Um, educating um, and giving language to worry and anxiety is important, because kids don't have they're not born with the language, we give them language. So they're going to start putting words and associating things no matter what. So we want to kind of or help guide that. And one of the scariest things for us as humans is like, maybe not scary, but overwhelming or complicated things, is not being able to name what we're feeling. So giving that language and differentiating between worry and anxiety. So And then the last one is once we've done that, kind of giving an idea how to cope, action plan or a um, like calming technique to kind of come down from that heightened anxiety if that's what's needed in the moment. Um, and you would choose one of those depending on how much you can control, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So, um, first, let's talk about how we can frame this and learn for ourselves the difference between worry and anxiety. Um, this is a book that you might have seen. Can you see it? Oh no, you can't. Shoot. How do I make that focus? Oh man. Okay, it's called A Little Spot of Worry. Oh, I got it, maybe. You get the gist. It's called A Little Spot of Worry, and she has quite a few of these books. I bet you have seen them somewhere. There's like an anxiety spot, anger spot, um, confidence spot. There's all kinds of, oh, they're on the back of here. Happiness, a little spot of happiness. Um, but this is a little spot of anxiety, of worry. And I love how she illustrates the difference, and she kind of refers to anxiety as a spinning worry. And so I have found that helpful to say, is this a worry or is this a spinning worry? And once kids can kind of grasp that idea, she does a super good job at putting it into pictures. We know that kids do really well with being a visual. I found that really helpful. So I'll probably refer to, and it's by what is her name? Right. Um, Diane Albert. So yeah, I would definitely look up those books. I found them super helpful and they're cute and kids like them. Um, but so I'm probably going to refer to like anxiety as a spinning worry, just because I think anxiety is such a big word. Um, and it's like a label. Sometimes it can, I don't know. I'm kind of sensitive about labeling kids and getting that stuck in their head. Like I have anxiety that defines me, that I do not like that. So I kind of like to say, is this a spinning worry or does this feel like anxiety? Um, Kind of being careful about how we're presenting that to the kid. Um, but anyway, when so everyone worries, and I think that's really important to make very clear. Everybody worries, and I think of this as the caveman scenario. So we're designed to have this response, worry and fear, because it keeps us safe. So um, if um, the caveman is fishing and he hears a wolf or a scary sound in the woods, um, he needs to be on alert, right? Does he need to run? Does he need to fight? Should he hide? So he needs to know what he's going to do. And we still have that response. I'm sure you're familiar with fight, flight, or freeze. Um, but if you're not, that's okay too. um, so that's our fear response, our stress response. What do we need to be doing right now to make sure we're safe? And that's happening all the time. But what happens is sometimes our brain can kind of get stuck in that loop, and it can kind of get like sensitized. So it's like overactive and everything can kind of feel dangerous. And this for a variety of reasons. We can be more susceptible to worry or anxiety. We might have had some big changes in our life, um, that, inside of us are saying we need to be on alert. And we just kind of get stuck in that. And I wouldn't worry about explaining that so much. I would just kind of keep it simple. But maybe understanding it for yourself is important too. Um, let me see where I'm at because I don't want to get lost. And usually I have a PowerPoint, but I'm not doing that. I'm working on my presenting skills. Um, does anyone have any questions about the fight, flight, freeze response right now? There's a lot more to it, but we're just keeping it simple. Um, the point of that is that it's normal to worry. It's normal to be scared sometimes. And I, one thing that you can do with your kid or again yourself, if you know, if you're struggling with this, is asking others. So I saw an activity, and some of the activities I'll be sharing with you are from the website called a very special tales, like tale as in story tale. She has incredible workbooks. And this one is called the No Worries Journal that I'm referring to, but there's really good activities in this. I would, if you have a child who's like really struggling with worry or um has a specific worry, like which we're going to talk about, this workbook is so good. A lot sometimes they're not, some resources online are this one's really good. I love it. Um, but she gives an idea of interviewing your family members about things that you worry about, that mom worries about, dad worries about, brother worries about, sister worries about, just to kind of normalize and get used to externalizing it. So it's not just me, it's not just inside of me. Huge for kids to be able to connect that way. Um, so once we've kind of gone familiar with there is a difference, another way to signal our body signals to us that we're maybe having a spinning worry is it's sticking around long enough that um and it feels intense enough. Maybe our palms get sweaty, maybe our heart is racing, we can get dizzy, we might cry. um what else? Shaky, fidgety. And if we're wanting to avoid certain situations, escape certain situations, um and again fidgeting or excessive crying, those are some things to kind of signal to us that maybe this is something we need a little bit of help to kind of work through or get some ideas. um Once we've kind of gone over that in our own mind and kind of sharing that with our child, like, hey, it feels so good to be able to put words to what's happening to us. um I hope that each of you have had that experience before where someone gave you the language and words to I like to speak what you were feeling or experiencing, and you'll know for yourself the relief that that can give you. It gives you a sense of connection and that you're seen. And so even just that in itself, like, hey, this is what this is called, this is what's happening, this is what's going on, that even in itself can be huge for anyone, and especially kids who, it's scary learning all these things. So um when oh so this is a really fun thing I love about in this part of it that she also shows in that journal on a very special tales is she has blank, like a template of a boy and a girl, and it's blank, so it's just the outline. And it said, and the activity is for the child to draw or color in where they feel their anxiety or their spinning worry. So in their chest or in their head. And you can get really creative with this. You can do different colors, you can do different patterns, you could even put words in there. Just let that kid like be creative with that, and it um getting it out onto paper, seeing it, getting the child in touch with how their body feels. Just practicing all those things are really good. So um that's a good activity for that, is show me. because sometimes again it's so hard to get out what happens. Um so sometimes we can have like our a child might be worried in a certain environment or a certain um event, what, and then I'll talk about those, and then at other times maybe we're just a child is just worrying often about almost like a lot of things, like maybe excessive worry, um like change in routine or eating out to dinner instead of eating at home, or just little things that feel so much bigger than maybe they should be, or in reality. And so depending on that, so I'm going to first talk about some ideas like with specific events. For example, test anxiety, super common, very common. Um, but we might hear that like, oh, mom, when I take a test, or dad, when I take a test, I just get so nervous. Or they might even not even tell you that. Sometimes you have to, the teacher will tell you, or in my case, I have a child that has a really hard time with testing, and um, I didn't know. And um, so just depending on the situation, but if that's something that's apparent or you've discovered that, um, it's helpful and it's important to understand what about the testing is scary. It could be, um, and when do you start noticing it? Is that the morning that you know you're going to have a test? Is it when the clock goes on? Is it when the room gets quiet? Um, what is it? When do you notice the feelings in your body? So that's why that's helpful to have that image, going so slow. And when we talk slower, kids are able to take it in better. I talk fast, so I have to remind myself that slow down. Um, when if you're able to understand what it is about the testing, you're going to have an easier time helping them come up with a plan or an action plan. Um, that's just one example, and the the kind of the skill, I guess, or the tool, um, would be this idea where, and I'm so sorry, I was going to put this on a PowerPoint, but it didn't work out. So I'll just describe it to you and hopefully it makes sense. But what you would have them do is write out the thoughts that are scary, because most, and even adults, like, don't realize that thoughts are, first of all, they're not us. We're not our thoughts, and thoughts are not facts. So that seems like an obvious idea, but it's really not. It's um if you're feeling something so strong in your body, it feels true. Um and then your feelings get mixed up with your thoughts. And so for a child to be able to separate and see it on paper that they're different, super powerful. So just even saying like, that's a thought that you're having. What does that thought make you feel? So a thought would be, I'm not going to do well on my test. I feel sick to my stomach. Um, and then we would have a behavior. So I might freeze up, or I might cause a scene, or um, I might fake sick. So, or I might really actually feel sick. But so do you see how that's separate, but it can all feel the same? And so writing out the thought, and this is basic CBT stuff, but it's very helpful for kids. So when you write out the thought, the challenge and the activity is to challenge that thought. And so you would write something like, um, everyone's better at this than me. Um, and then the challenge would be, well, maybe we're all new at this and we're all trying. Um, I don't really know everyone's score. And so just being able to write out the thought, and it's not good enough to just talk about it. Writing it is does something. I wish I knew the physiological terms, but getting it from your thoughts, the abstract to the concrete on the paper is so powerful. It sometimes even writing it out gets rid of the worry. Try this on for yourself. When you start noticing yourself really worried, feeling icky, I challenge you to write it out, write the thought out, see if you can even make the thought into a sentence, see how you're feeling, and then challenge that thought. Um, and that's pretty a basic thing, but it really is powerful and it helps externalize what's going on the inside. Um, and then in this, I really do want to give this credit, this journal, because I really feel like it's so powerful. Again, it's called the No Worries Journal on the Very Special Tales, but she has templates that you can fill out. And so you don't have to like worry about creating any of this. And you can print it out or you can do it digitally. But she gives case by case. She has like 5 friends that all they have names and they have different scenarios of what gives them anxiety. And one is testing, one is public speaking. And she gives a bunch of ideas of how to like a toolbox for this kind of stuff. It's super awesome. I highly recommend it. And then the other one that I wanted to talk about was the scenario where everything's kind of a worry. Um, like just worrying about lots and lots of things and kind of being more observant. Certain kids are more observant, and so they have more that they're taking in and sensitive to. Um, and so that can be hard because um, a lot of kids, maybe they're same age, don't see the same things. Maybe they're not on the same level of like being like necessarily like considerate, or um, things might come across scary, but they're actually not scary to others. And so it just can be kind of hard to navigate. But this another idea is having like sometimes we'll call this like a container, or in this journal she calls it the worry box. So a physical box to write down the worry, and they can stick it in the box at any time. Um, but knowing that they're not letting it go, but they're giving it a place to go. Okay, so they're not leaving it behind, but they're giving it place to go. And then they can come back to it later. Lots of times when they open it up and are sharing it with an adult, the worry isn't there anymore because of that process I just talked about, where we're getting it out of the abstract and putting it concrete. Sometimes that's enough to like realize what's actually happening. Um, I did this going back to that, the thought, um, getting it out of like that headspace. Something I've done is the what if, or no, excuse me, that then what? Um, so a child is super worried about getting hit by a ball at recess. And um, I say, okay, what happens if you do get hit by a ball? And that's kind of scary to go for them to face, but you're there with them. They're not actually getting hit by a ball. Having them play that out, well, this will happen. Okay, and that then what will happen? Then I might have to go to the office, and then what will happen? And then I might um go be crying, and I might have to go to the hospital, and then what? And then I might have to get stitches. Oh, and then what? And just keep on making them follow that train, and it will turn into something more manageable. When it's inside, it feels so overwhelming because we can't see clearly. So getting it out helps them slow it down and get a better handle on what it is they're actually worried about. And when you can understand what you're actually worried about, then you have a chance to kind of deal with it. Um, yes, so the worry box, being able to talk about it later, it gives them a spot to put those things, but not necessarily let it take over and make them lose out on what they're doing in the moment. So I love that idea. Um, I think the main thing I want to get across is that it's normal. And especially it's so normal to have anxieties and worries. Um, and get setting up kids with the language and the tools and the psychoeducation, the support, the connection from others, helping them get out of a scary place that feels so lonely and overwhelming to like, we're here with you. We've been there before. Setting them up for that, for their lifelong experience is going to be so powerful. And we're a lot better at doing that now than we have in the past, as in our culture and things like that. But um, yes, I think that was my main thing is normalizing it, giving it language, um, and support and connection. It's the no worries journal. And she has a lot of, or in that journal is, it's like 90 pages. It's a lot, but you obviously don't need to print all that. But at the end, she has all the blank templates and different scenarios. I just talked about two different ones. So totally check those out. Okay. Thanks, everyone. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. Hope that was helpful. Okay. Thanks, everyone.